How about now? Looks like whenever I moved my desk up, it might have knocked the cable out. I apologize for that. So, how about now? How about now? Can everybody hear? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. It's weird because like I'm looking now on the microphone. I can see like when the vocals are hitting, so I don't really look at the the program anymore, and that might have been a mistake. So, what'd you think? What did you think of the video if you saw it? Is there anybody like seeing the bigger picture here and getting even more worried than like you might have been prior to? Because I really do feel like as you dig deeper into everything, like you start kind of piecing things together. Oh yeah, that's nice. um, damn man, it's getting crazy. And like there's some really interesting things in the grander scheme of Warframe in general that are slowly and it's quite living with the Redditor. They're slowly starting to like uncover these just ever so tiny morsels of information, and like on the surface a lot of them doesn't really hit it as let's say as powerfully if you don't have all of the additional context to kind of go with it. But in the case that you do, man, I'll tell you, it's yeah, PG, I agree with you. I think that it's it's going to be, first of all, I think they're going to have to be convinced unless one of them already has a story to tell in regards to the indifference. Like that's something that I do think is, let's just say, in ways possible. Um, you know, of course, no one will be in for this thing. Let me just make sure something. Yeah, I did actually put that. But when the proto frames show up and actually figure out or are told or explain what's actually happening, how do you even accept, like how do you accept that? So Yellow Toad, that is something that's important, because if my clones end up, oh man, am I doing an interception by myself with Rhino? Because that's, I don't know if that's gonna be the best thing ever. Unranked weapons and stuff. You know what? Just gonna back right out. We're just gonna back right out of this one. I can do it, but I'm not gonna use these weapons. There's no way. Not with a level 13 Gorgon with no mods on it. You know, there's got to be a limit. This isn't a challenge run. Well, see, this is where I get into. Well, I mean, I think everybody kind of knows what I think about 1999, and I know that. I guess in some ways, DE is somewhat.
Ready to kick.
I wouldn't say they debunked anything. It's just it's almost like they're trying to keep, certain things close to the chest, and I understand, and I think that may even be, there was an aspect of the last video there where I kind of talked about the idea of the different dialogues that occur with 1999 and then the one that we got at TennoCon. And in a lot of ways, like, I feel as though that was done very much to keep the reveal of the Man of the Wall You know, because if they would have come out and showed what it really was, like everybody would have known, oh, yeah, Rusalka. You know, it would have been a completely different kind of scenario that they'd have been working with. But, you know what, for right now, I guess it just doesn't really matter, does it? Just give me whatever will put the most dips down for me. Surely. Well, Shotgun, I think the whole concept's going to be revolved around. I don't know exactly if they. Oh, nice. Thank you. That'll help. Anybody else wants to join? Feel free. In case you're wondering.
Sorry.
Lilith 4208536. Yeah, so they're trailing Rusalka. So I mean, it's entirely possible that Entrati and I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, when you think about Entrati in regards to him, thank you, PG, and how he's a scientist, you know, and he would want to essentially make sure that everything that we were doing, everything that was going on would be double and triple checked, right? So the idea that there could be a secondary group of proto-frames or even a third group or a fourth group, potentially completely unaware of each other, right, is absolutely on the table, because that's, think of it as like, you know, different kind of like putting samples in different places to make sure, you know, this one, we'll see what this one does. We'll see what this one does. You never even know. They may have been, hey, King of Fire, they may have even been, you know how like Arthur is specifically chosen at that one point, you know, to kind of be the I don't know, necessarily the leader, but at least a very important part of the Hex. Perhaps all the proto-frames in the same regard may, possibly at least, like have different traits that he wanted to like isolate per se. And you know, in the grand scheme, if he could keep them completely away from each other, he could get like, you know, what we'd consider to be like the best scientific quote unquote result. Horoscope, I hope you enjoy. Dirium, how are you? Good to see everybody today. Thank you for joining me on stream. You know, we had. It's interesting. At the very. Did mine lose? Yeah, of course it did. At the tail end of the hello, Middle Twig. At the very end of our the video today, someone else kind of threw some information out, and man, you know what's awesome is there's nothing better than when somebody says something and then you're like, oh, and it triggers something in your head. And I had that occur. I think I've got some information for another vidya. I love it. That's the whole goal. I always enjoy you guys coming. This is actually where I get a lot of inspiration for stuff that I'm going to do, and also just the drive to kind of want to put stuff out. So. The council, if you will. The hugs. Z-File. Aussie. Good to see everybody.
Keep it up.
If you see me just randomly doing stuff and it looks like, you know, what could he possibly be thinking? That's usually when I'm reading chat, just so you know. Actually, like right now, I'm just kind of trying to pick up a little bit of additional affinity, if you will. Rank these god-awful weapons up so I can get myself out of the mastery rank hell. Well, that yes, yes, yes. That was the that was it. It never really occurred to me how similar certain things. I don't want to say anything yet though, because like I said, I can get a. Oh well, I'm glad to have been of service. That's the goal. You know what? That is a very interesting point. That Limbo probably is the only Warframe that is actually like dressed like a Warframe, huh? Or like an Oracle, or at least dressed not necessarily like an Oracle, but like dressed well in its Warframe form. You know, I mean, like Rhino, you know, looks like he's got some pieces on him, right? Oh, nice, nice. I mean, you all know how I desperately want Rusalka to be more than just like a tiny piece of the story. Her models, you know, it's fantastic. It really is. It's wonderful. Sharp dressed limbs. That's exactly. Oh, no worries. Just thanks for being here.
Extraction is available.
I was actually saying, yeah, we can absolutely extract because I could care less about this. So the quicker we get out of here, the better. He is. Oh wait, no. Let's just get out. Let's just extract. We don't need to. We don't need any more of an interception than absolutely necessary. Yeah, we just started stream, so we're good. True, but what I'm saying is that if nothing else, it's the only Warframe that you just wouldn't expect a. Let's put it this way: I would be more inclined to see a lab coat / scientist looking Warframe, because that's the type of person that Ballast would most likely want to experiment on, you know, given how he does things, than just some random sharp dressed man. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's in my opinion what makes Limbo like really unique is his look, you know? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like I could see Ballast. It's just because of the possibilities.
Look.
Now who would
Like
be knocking all the way out here?
you could turn
Operator.
a warrior into a Warframe, and like right off the bat, you'd be like, okay, that makes total sense, you know. And if they had like warrior looking stuff, like Rhino here, you know. But then, and like I could see Ballast saying, okay, well, I can see what the Helminth infusion does upon the concept of a warrior. I wonder what it would do on somebody that has like a meticulous and even overdeveloped, if you will, mind, such as like an alchemist might, right? So I could see that because it would serve a potential purpose, and I think that's exactly what it did in the end. You know, with the type of abilities that Lavos has and things of that nature. But then you have Limbo, who he's just a sharp looking dude. And I don't know if Ballast was like maybe jealous. Or is there a connection between Lloyd and Limbo? Because there is a definitely a similarity in the way that they look. That could absolutely, have some kind of legitimacy to it. Yeah, yeah, that would actually be pretty cool if like you did have like a human who could almost handle the indifferent or the not the indifference, the technocyte to the point where it didn't change him at all. Like even someone like Hayden Tenno, where you see in the beginning portions, it seems more on the lines of, let's say, in the process of changing, you can see most of his body, and then you can also see with the proto frames, like there's aspects of their body that's already changed. But it would be cool to actually see like a human, right? That took the stuff, but had literally no change in its body, and just had all the abilities of the technocyte, but without any of the necessary like look, if you will. Or if it, I mean, because you think about it, like it absolutely can assimilate, right? So with that in mind, perhaps it'd be kind of cool if like it could lose its form periodically, but then regain it. Like if it needed to, say it was like a human being, like the Thing almost, but like not transformed and like also not the Thing. You know what I mean? That's true.
Good work. We now have control.
So that's kind of my point, is that even with like Hayden Tenno, like even his human look was a method of like kind of a suppression versus. Hold on, I'm on the way. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, but eventually Mirage did, right? Like all of them, really. And it kind of goes back to, it's funny because even the proto frames, like within their messages within the KIM, like they're all pretty much, hey, can you fire? There you are.
So far,
They're all pretty much reserved to the idea that at some point they're going to change. I mean, Eleanor absolutely believes it. Can you still invite? I guess we haven't really. No, I'll invite you as soon as this mission's over. Oh yeah, well the man on the wall loves that sort of thing.
Keep going.
That's
that
true.
rover's contents will be a huge boost to our cause. Protect the rover. If it's destroyed, this mission will be considered a failure.
All right. Well, we're good here. True Lotus. Oh, no worries. I mean, absolutely. That's. I'm curious if, I mean, you have the limbo theorem, but like, at some point, I really do hope that they go into. We've already kind of done the 1999 thing, but it would be really cool at some point to actually see the Orcan civilization, like as it was in its prime. Like, or maybe even if we could see like what the universe was like at the beginning of the old war. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say it 1,000 times. Like, I don't. I don't understand at all how Rel got himself a Warframe.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely, and I mean, that's the coolest thing is, I think we were talking a little bit about this towards the end of the premiere of the video today, but like, there's so many different ways that the story could go. And people would still be juiced. They would be super excited. Anyway, like if DE say like TennoCon this year, right? DE could delve more into 1999 and more into the proto frames and junk and stuff, right? And everybody would be just like super excited. I guess Metal Twig, are you in? Do you want to play? I don't remember getting an invite. What was the achievement I got? I didn't even notice. I just thought it was one of the, because this is the old, this is the new character, so I don't even know what I... Hello. Oh, cool. I don't even know if my regular character is. I sure hope it does, actually. But so, like I was saying before, so we got, that's the first one, okay?
Everything in orders, operator?
So that's a place that we could immediately go and everybody be super hyped. Or, say at TennoCon this year, DE's like, we're going to Tau. Like, people would lose their shit. Okay? So, or DE goes, we're going back to the old war to see the Orkin. Because I mean, now that the fact that we do have in some way, shape, or form time travel, it's absolutely on the table. Oh, I'm sure the Red Veil have it somewhere in there, huh? Sure looks like it from the area. Hello, Revenant Highlander. Hello. How are you? Good to see you. Hello to everybody. And if I did miss you, I do apologize, but thank you very much for being here with me. Just doing our weekly Warframe chat about what's most likely to come.
Eliminate all corpus traps.
Yeah, so then there's a thing, like, or say, DE could say, we're going to be, you know, like, the whole thing is going to be about just about the indifference. Maybe it's through Entradi's labs. And people would lose their shit. Especially me. I would really lose my shit. I mean, hell, we could say, oh, man. People, they could say, we're going back to Deviri. And to figure out what happened now with all that, and we get more details on what actually happened in a ton of different things, or maybe some of the new islands, or those islands that like disappeared, like the island with all the black-eyed children, and like the islands are just starting to pop up again, and everybody would be juiced. So they have so many different routes that they could go. But the crazy part is even with all these supposed things, right? That doesn't mean that's what they're going to do. They might do something else. We might do something completely different. I mean, Captain Vor and Wally, yeah, they have a great relationship. That's another thing. We could see Captain Vor. becomes a significant thing. Like, what if he even showed up as like a major boss? Yeah, that's right, because a lot of the Hex members have been consistently talking about wanting to go to Viri specifically. Like, they don't seem to care much about going to anywhere else other than Duviri specifically. That is the one place that, I don't know if because they're like dating the king or whatever, but it doesn't matter. You know, if they want to feel like royalty, but we should tell them that you don't really get treated like royalty in Duviri. In fact, you get treated more like a criminal.
Now get to extraction.
But okay, where? Oh, okay, cool. Everybody just shoots past me because I'm the newbie with my frame that can't do all the neat fun stuff like everybody else. That's okay. Just gonna scoop up all the loot on the way home. Group field trip to Duviri. But funny, but you know, that's what they all want.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
Well, again, yeah, PG, that's true. Maybe the proto frames. I mean, I think that's what everybody believed in the beginning about the proto frames. They were going to be like the first variants of the proto or of the real Warframe stuff. King of Fire, to your answer to your question on in the game here, I have not even picked up Chrome yet, unfortunately. This is true, yeah. The game's, to me, like there's always an aspect of it that keeps me playing. The only thing that really this is the funny aspect. In reality, the only thing that really keeps me from playing Warframe is other games having something out that's of interest. All right, this is really, really weird for some reason. Go back to Jupiter.
Operator, Ordis is sorry.
Oh, I can do it, huh? Cool. What? Dude, what is going on with it? I'll have to check him out again. He was, for a while, he was definitely a big frame. A big... Oh, you know what? I could use a little bit of this. That being said, let's head to the void. I could use some stuff. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I really thought that's what everybody kind of believed in the beginning as far as the proto frames. But now I don't. Now I'm not sure about anything. I just want to see the Orcan civilization as it was. Oh, is Dominant Thrax is here? Yeah, I mean, imagine that. Like, yeah, and he absolutely could be one of the heralds that the Indifference speaks about. He already kind of talks about him in that way. Is Kalervo even a real frame? That's interesting. That's an interesting thought. Because technically we didn't retrieve it in the quote-unquote real world. That is a very, very interesting concept.
This is a mobile defense mission. You must deliver payloads.
I mean, look,
locations while I break into the
I
network.
so desperately want to
prepared for
just
heavy resistance.
give up
I can't do this without you.
the concept of this idea that
I'm in.
1999
This will take a moment.
is just, it's just
Location reached.
back in time. That's all it is. Like that's actually what I just want to believe, right? I want to believe that. But my problem is that there's so many pieces of information that we get during the quests that really do kind of contradict that point, or at least, if nothing else, like really muddy the waters, okay? And I mean, I can go off on a ton of them, like just in little, in actual pieces of dialogue, when you're not even talking about any type of speculation whatsoever. Like, the first probably major thing that really got me thinking about it is whenever we got the initial kind of description of what's going on with the quote-unquote strands of Kra during the Whispers in the Walls quest. And Lloyd goes on to say that those are conceptually embodied timelines, which essentially means void-created timelines. I mean, conceptual embodiment is what the indifference essentially, well, or I should say, what the void allows for.
And prepare for enemy resistance.
And whereas Fibonacci does make kind of the argument that that's not necessarily the case, he doesn't say that he's wrong, rather that he just says it's a very simplistic way of looking at it. And because of that, it starts to, for me, that was like the beginning portion of my thought process of where I am at right now. That, and I've said it a bunch of times, that there is this prime timeline that the void acts upon.
Still working on it. Continue to defend.
And what makes it interesting is, again, this is just like kind of how I perceive it, because it's so subjective to begin with, and like, you know, it's just locking it down is next to impossible. But because of what the void can do, and as well as taking into consideration the idea that the void is literally all around everything, which, I mean, if it's not naturally done, that's essentially what the Heart of Deimos is said to be doing, right?
This will take a moment.
So if that's the case, especially when characters move through time and essentially apply the actions that happened in the alternate time to our time, you know, kind of a perfect example would be like the spy missions on Lua, right? What we do in the past affects the future. And vice versa. And it seems like that's happening in a larger scale, in that what happened through 1999 now affects the future, where it didn't before, potentially. Like, there's new dialogue within things like the Once Awake quest, where, you know, now the Technocyte's initial introduction is
The odds were against us, Tenno, but we did it.
been altered.
Mission complete.
You have the whole, what's her name? Kylie listening to a track from 1999 that's, you know, essentially new, because it didn't exist up until just right now. even though it supposedly happened. And like I said, to me, what it looks like... Oh, sorry. I'm just bullshitting here. I apologize. Getting my loots. You know how we go. Ooh, oh, wait, there's some Argon. Oh, just let me get that. We'll be fine. Where was it? 20 seconds. Go 70 meters. Oh, you son of a bee. Oh, nice. Okay. Whew.
Mission
Kylie,
complete.
the what's her name from Sister at the Necrolis. But, and especially like, they kind of show this, at least in TennoCon. Now we're gonna find out for certain about the Tekrot Encore here in a couple weeks. But the way that it was insinuated there was something that we did in 1999. Literally at that moment, applied itself to the Prime timeline, and when we and we could actually go and do that in the Origin system, you know, and it said like sometime later. I don't know, something about this later, that later. Jeff? So to me, it just keeps feeling like, I think it's on the 19th. So it's in 10 days. So, like 2 weekies. But do you see what I'm saying? Like that essentially these things from they weren't that way before, but they are applying themselves to the timeline, and it is changing the timeline. Heck, if you want to see a perfect example of what I'm talking about, well, it's right here. By all rights, this shouldn't be here, but yet it sprung up. Which is extremely interesting. And granted, it is a method by which it's a mechanic in game, but it's still just kind of popped up out of nowhere here. So it leads me to believe that while these things are timelines, something that Eleanor says, and I tried to specifically kind of point that out in this past video, was that she made the point of these people that interact, right, and they come back through the void. How do we know that they're the same person? Like, if they're a conceptual embodiment of another person, and that person is the idea of which that, you know, this person's thought the other person was, versus it actually being that person. If you never met the first person, the actual human, the actual person, whatever, you'd have no way to reference if this new variant had any types of quirks or anything that made it like odd or different, and make you question if in fact they were the same person. But because in many of these instances we never get to really tell who's who. By the way, we don't have that frame of reference. Like, the question that we have to ask right now: did we speak to Lloyd? Or did we speak to something else? And then the next question that I would ask is, how do you know?
The portal only allows travel in one direction.
flying through
Start
here.
up the portal generators to reverse the polarity.
Yes, if you want to find the caches, that would be great. We get both of them? Oh, that one went down. Ooh. And we missed those. Mr. B6, that's a really good question. Like, what happened there with the whole? What happened to her poor face, and why was that the design that Malice like chose or something, or like was it something like within the personality of Dagath that like forced their face to go away?
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
What I kind of postulated in this last video reverberates literally everywhere now, because you can tell the whole concept of the doppelganger is starting to come full circle. It's a really good question. I mean, a lot of people have.
There's the torsion beam device.
I've heard at least
Hidden
that
white key. Find it.
the theory on more than one occasion that the indifference could essentially be like a corrupted or perverted collective unconscious. Hey, Gemma. Thank you for rejoining. Appreciate you.
Quick.
I owe the members a stream.
Now get back to
I know. I do apologize. Work took a little bit longer than I hoped yesterday, and fortunately, it just got too late to do it. But I owe you a stream, so I hope you enjoys. When I bring it out, hopefully it will be. I don't know. It's really up to you guys. I can make that up whenever this week. Probably be the best way for me to just put out a little post, and we'll see what the best day is. Because it is weekday, so it'll probably be a little bit different in the ways of. I'm literally just bullet jumping through every mission at this point. And you know what? I have no problem with that. Because it's just a star chart. And I want to get, I really want to get to the second dream. But I would go here and see if we have anything fun. Because sometimes you can get yourself some interesting things in this room. There's one. Well, I wouldn't be. It's almost like DE already gave you it for free for a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like that, like a low res version of it. That would be very cool. Nothing worth having. But wouldn't you, so the beam on her face, though, wouldn't that just heal right up? I mean, it does, it works for everybody else. Know what I'm saying?
Another job well executed.
I mean, good rule of thumb: if a person it was or is a Warframe, something bad happened to them. It could be really bad too, by the way. I mean, that's the thing. Like, something really bad could have happened, or something bad could have happened. Well, see, okay. So within the dialogue of Eleanor, at least, they talk a little bit about the Warframes and where they're at now with their. Oh, Mr. Meeseeks, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. 5 gifted memberships.
If lost upon
Thank
the
you,
plains
thank you,
outside
thank
cities,
you.
You may derive sustenance from
They didn't pay
termite
their-
droppings,
cool.
which the Ostrons call Ito
Well,
Da.
sometimes you
will
gotta
also never
you gotta
fall
claim
into
that.
Again, but at least you will not be dead.
Change that color there. It's all too dark. You are a champion, my friend. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, is it me that's the problem? Oh, okay. I get it. Well, I'm gonna say to you, to me, it's interesting that amongst the man on the wall, the Tenno kids, and Lotus, there's a very significant number there of people, first of all, within the lore. Seven is not Seven is not in any way, shape, or form an insignificant number, and it works quite well in the context of the Orkin, right? But what's more concerning to me as I look at that cutscene now, especially with what we know, right? What I think is more upsetting is it's the only time I've ever seen Tenno, ever, with black eyes. There's only one other instance in the lore that specifically calls out something that looks like that, and it's not a good thing. And when you take into consideration that, take into consideration the concept that you don't see more Tenno around, which I think is really interesting. It looks like most of the pods are still intact and nobody's come out.
Get ready for a capsule.
Whatever you want's fine. I don't know. Like I said, to me, there's something very wrong about that particular scene. Now, remember, though, unfortunately, we have to remember who also presented it to us, and the fact that memories, there you go, memories are something that it likes to utilize as far as manipulation tools. And it seems to not have a problem with potentially manipulating information if it serves its purpose. So that's kind of the other rub, is now, is that scene legit? Or was it meant to influence? Which, changes the entire, idea of it. Now, if it's just straight legit, true, I'd say it kind of very much leads me to believe that there's a lot of validity to the concept that kind of what I put out in my video regarding
Prepare for life support.
the deal. I really do believe that it kind of speaks to oh man, there's argon crystals for days. Oh wait, no, I already got them. Boo. So excited.
Another life support capsule
I don't know.
is now available.
Like I said, there's a couple like real big pieces of the lore that if they are quantified in some way, it like to the point where we can definitively say this is this or that is that. I mean, there's a couple things too. Definitely some stuff in the dialogue of the KIM that you can choose. Like to me, there's stuff in there that I would have much rather there been a consistent answer between all three of the options that you were given, or four, depending on which thing that you were doing at the time. My guns just aren't strong enough for this. Yeah, I mean, essentially they are, but they aren't. And like, that's something else I never really kind of put together, but in those same messages, the drifter kind of potentially puts into question. And this was something else I brought up a while, but I caught this completely by accident, and it could be just speculation, but one of the reasons why it might not be necessarily important that the beginning of the Deviri paradox might have a different character than your operator, meaning that, like, especially if you have a female Tenno, the Deviri paradox would have obviously seemed very odd, given that there was a male there that was supposed to be you, right? But there is some dialogue within the KIM that the drifter says
Just made their first discovery.
he only realized, or he or she
When you need it,
figures
extraction's
out
ready.
at the moment that the handshake is done, that we see in the new war, that you're one and the same. And I'm not saying this is a certain type of thing, but like, it does beg the question if did the man on the wall just pick any variant or a specific person to become the Tenno's other? Meaning, like, are the Tenno and the Drifter necessarily the same person, or were they joined together for a specific purpose by the deal and thus aren't necessarily the same
Job well executed.
thing? See, that's what I originally thought too, but it's just interesting that like there's some dialogue in there that I don't know. It's odd as far as the whole scenario goes, and I don't know. But I'm trying to think which video I actually put some of that stuff in. Well, I mean, bear in mind that this is what happens when you have legitimately 10 years of lore to go through. You know what? All you guys are here. Might as well do it. I mean, there's going to be stuff that slips through the cracks, even if you don't. I mean, there's stuff that I don't know.
Orders has encountered
You guys
cells
bring stuff up in the
all
chat all the
accounted
time,
for.
and I'm like, oh, that's right. Or, oh, shit, I didn't know that one. So, with that in mind, like, and you know, I literally am reading or doing something with Warframe lore every single day. Well, I mean, again, true until you consider the concept that if you had a female Tenno and your drifter looked nothing like them in the beginning. Hey, Pierce. But again, it's most likely what that is. There's some dialogue in there that sometimes, I guess what I should say, well, that's two. They're technically the same age. And for some reason, I mean, it's weird because in Duviri, the drifter ages, but only to a particular amount. And then he stops.
These radio towers carry top secret
Yes, if you haven't read through the
communications.
Levirian,
You are going to capture the
there's a
towers
ton
and
of
decode
information
incoming
in there.
messages.
It goes way deep, super deep, with some really interesting stuff. The KIM too, in the grand scheme. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. Now, again, the only thing I would say about the KIM specifically is that you're going to run up into situations where, especially, like if you go through, if you like look on the wiki or something like that, you'll get somewhat of an idea. But the way that they had to put the stuff in there to actually kind of show all the dialogue and possibilities makes it really hard to follow what your choices were for every single individual
We have control of all 4 towers.
like question that you were given, right? So in a lot of ways, if you didn't go through like 3 different times and make sure that you chose like different answers for every single one, you wouldn't have a full picture of the story. But at the same time, as I was saying before, there are things in there with the 3 answers or 4 answers that if I answer it one way, it makes another answer impossible. And so unless like we're talking, like we're adding in like eternalism into the concept of the KIM as well, there's just certain, I just can't take everything that I read within the KIM as completely definitive. Because like I said, there's just... No, yes. I'd take either one. A Warframe movie, I don't... The problem is which story would you try to show? Because it's not like you could show, like...
Enemy have taken a tower.
If you try to do a
Must
movie
capture it.
that had them come out of their cryopods in the beginning, encapsulated the second dream, the war within, the new war, and do very paradox even, and that's not even including like the stuff with the whispers to the walls and stuff.
We are in
That movie would have to be hours and hours long, or else it would be so stripped of so much context that it would probably end up something like the Borderlands movie, which was nay. Oh, that's what we do here. It's all day with the timelines and conceptual stuff. Like I said, to me that dialogue right there really does put, well, there's a ton of other things too. But there's just a ton of things that are said in game. That just make me believe that one timeline, if nothing else, is more important than the rest. A 3-hour movie wouldn't do it. No way. No way. If you want to get the good dialogue in too, like the stuff that's important, no way. No way. You'd be looking at an extended Lord of the Rings trilogy situation where you're looking at like 4 hours per movie. Maybe even a little bit extra. 4+ hours per movie. So you get yourself, anywhere from 12 to 15 hours total within a trilogy type thing. And even then, you'd still miss a bunch. There'd still be just in the kind of the same way that the Lord of the Rings. Like those movies were long as hell, and yet there's still a ton of stuff that you never got to see. Where's Tom Bombadil?
More data is being broadcasted. Are you willing to risk going back into the field?
I mean, I get that he'd be a very, very difficult character to put in, but like,
I have detected
in the grand scheme of things, that character in particular is,
the data you have collected
pretty significant one. Not necessarily for the story, but just in the fact that he exists in the first place. Now, I can tell you that would be cool if the Warframe story, like if they did something like that, but Nora Knight was the narrator of stuff. That would make perfect sense too. Like, absolutely make a ton of sense.
Check your mags and keep the gas tanks full.
Because she would have been. I could easily see a situation where they do like, if it was like a series, the very beginning of the series would be showing it from the now perspective, right? And it would be very similar to, especially to people that didn't understand completely, if you had Nora Knight in the beginning kind of disguised as someone else, giving like a narrative kind of like the genie did in the beginning of the original Aladdin, where like, there it is, like, right? So you want to hear a story, eh? That's what I'm saying. Like, it would be perfect where she would come out, like, you wouldn't necessarily, like, Warframe people would be like, wait a second, is that Nora Knight?
You're
But
welcome.
to other people, it would just be like, oh, okay, it's just like, this is a character, whatever, but we would all be like, holy shit, I bet that's her. Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing. So, okay, here's the thing. Go to that one. Say at TennoCon, they literally said, this entire thing is all about Nora Knight and explaining her situation. I don't know about you guys, but I'd be so excited. I'd be like, oh my God, answers. Finally, there's so many answers we're finally going to get, right? I can't wait to see what she's all about. Oh, you know what? What else I got y'all here? Beep, beep, beep. Yeah, she's never done this, so you guys are going to give me Warframe lore audiobook, but it's narrated by Nora. Yeah. I mean, if Ballas would be willing to do it. And again, it just kind of goes back to my point. There are so many different avenues that we could be headed towards. I have no clue. I literally have no clue what TennoCon is going to encapsulate. And that's a great feeling. Because I think for most part, unless you are at the very end of the story, right? Like I'm going to use Destiny as a reference here. Like, whereas I know it's rough right now in the Destiny story because they just got through the big bad, and now we have a situation where you're kind of in that lull period, figuring out who the next big character is going to be. You can kind of understand not knowing where things are gonna, or basically gonna head to. But like, when you're this deep in with what we got already going on, and with everything that we've been given here recently, it's weird that we don't know what's coming next. I love it. But like I said, I would just be like, okay, you know, the next thing, this is going to be it. This is what we're going to be figuring out, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Defend the cargo until reinforcements arrive.
Remember, get my newbie character as many resources as I can possibly get. If I do fall behind, you know what I'm doing. Sorry, I'm not gonna go too deep into it. Oh yeah, I'll take any other. That's another thing. I'll take any excuse to have more Entrati in the game too. But if you think about it, it's interesting because the last two quests that we got, right, were actually like, they came in pairs. Actually, the last four quests, I should say, they came in pairs because the new war and the Duviri paradox are meant to kind of be together. They're, you know, like they're not necessarily sequels of each other, but they do offer aspects to each side that explain the other one better, right? And Whispers in the Walls and 1999 is the same way, right? Like, there's a ton of different things that are associated with both of them, and you know, I even found shit. This was the thing at the end of the stream that somebody said, but man, does it? I'm just gonna say this, and I wonder if I'm just gonna ask you if this sends the same type of chill down your spine that it did mine when I first thought about it. Ready for this? Oh, what happened? Really? I can't believe it. We failed a defense mission? How could that possibly be? What? Impossible. Oh, so I think I get it now. I was under the impression that it was just the regular defense mission, but it was a target, so nobody was protecting the. That poor guy. He's probably yelling at all of us because we're all sitting there bullshitting. If you could just think about it, like the three Warframes are all talking about lore and shit together. They're like, hey, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And this poor defense human with the one gun, he's like, hey, guys, can you help? Do you mind? You know, he's just taking damage.
Orders reminds the operator to take time for themselves. Pressure creates diamonds, yes, but it also creates rubble.
All right, this time when we go back in, I'm going to keep an extra close watch. Yeah, where's the achievement for that one? Seriously, we're all just sitting there doing nothing, bullshitting about Warframe, and he's the only guy fighting. Yeah, how about the suspended bodies thing, right? Because, like, one would assume that if if there is a if we're dealing with the copy, then and we haven't found the regular, that there may be a situation where there's, you know, like somewhere in the void where we could find a lot of things. Dude, how creepy would it be like if we get into the void, right? You ready for this? Okay. So who's this guy that we're... Okay, this is the man? Okay. No. Get out of here. Why are you fighting, bro? But... yeah, can you... I know you guys are asking the tough questions right now, but can you cover my ass, please? Well, I feel bad because I'm trying to read chat too. So Chipper, he's really it's not gonna be a good day for you, buddy. But the like, what if all the people, like, what if all the people that we've actually seen within the game that have contacted? Now, I'm sure they're not gonna get this, right? But like, how messed up would it be if there was like a realm where like all of them were like still either suspended or trapped in, and we learned at that moment that every one of them that was in the origin system was actually a clone. Oh yeah, there's the alignment system too. That eventually, at some point, we're going. You can tell it's coming to a head because they keep adding to it. If the alignment system was something that they didn't care about, they wouldn't continue to add it to their main quests. It's going to get to something. Not necessarily that it's all a dream for us, but that. So say we were to learn, right, that the Lotus, heck, maybe even Valis, the Holdfasts, Palladino, and this Lotus that I'm talking about would be post-New War, by the way. Post-New War Lotus, right? But if you were to find all of, if like something, we were going to quest and there would be like this thing that we were going into within the void somewhere, like a pocket dimension, not unlike something that Parvus Granum created, or, you know, even Deviri in that matter. But that these people were all like either suspended in there to the point where they were like just trapped, or literally were like aware of their being trapped. And you realized at that moment that all of those people in the origin system, all this time, were clones of themselves. Were like void clones. And the worst part is like I said in the video, as Eleanor kind of asks, do these people know that they're clones? Like, what if they're created, but they believe that they're the real versions of of these people? What if Arteno is that, like the operator? Oh, I'd love to see. And then if they do it, oh, there's another one. Arch Plumbus, nice. Okay, check this out. So, TennoCon, right? This one shows Hayden Tenno show up, decked out like how he is to join in the fight, right? And you get into the whole dark sector thing, and like they go back and they tie the two things together. I actually, I didn't mean to do that. People would freak out. That's just another place the story could legitimately go. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think they're gonna say it's all just a dream thing. But what I'm saying is just like I said. Imagine if. So like like I said, all those people, every person that has encountered the indifference that we know of, like Yonta and all the holdfasts and whatnot. Like if we encountered their real bodies somewhere else, kind of suspended. And we learned at that moment that every single one of those people wasn't themselves. So now we'd have to ask the very real question of, okay, we know they're not themselves, but are they bad? Because if they're a void clone of the person and they have the thoughts of of said person, they may have also the intentions and the behaviors and the ideals of that same person as well. And then say that the clone is a good clone, right? Or doesn't understand that it's meant to be bad, right? But could still be influenced as the man in the wall can do, or taken over at any point, right? What do? Do you kill the clone? Because it didn't technically do anything wrong, yet it's still a threat at any point because of what the man on the wall is capable of. And further, not only is it still a threat, but given that now you know, how would you go about trusting the other person in definitively realizing, oh yeah, this is the one, if you let the clone live? So in the kinematic, they do make mention specifically of there being multiple Tenno. So it's not just one Tenno. There's a bunch of them. How many there are, I have no clue. Like I said, when you look at it from the concept of what they showed at TennoCon, like 2021 or 2020, I don't remember which one it was, but there's like a scene where, now this was never in game, but it was shown there where like the people in our immediate classroom that was shown in the new war are the ones that turn, and you actually see them like start to float like at different intervals. But the contradiction to that could be, again, depending on its validity, the era scene, because behind what we see there, you have rows and rows and rows of essentially cryopods with assumedly Tenno in them. So there could be a classroom full of them, or there could be hundreds of them, or thousands of them, depending on, did the man on the wall take all the kids on the ship? And so how many people were on the Zerman? Was if they're trying to start a new colony, were there hundreds of people? Were there thousands of people? Were there tens of thousands of people? Well, okay. So then you have another thing. You have like a Warframe like Dante, right? Who encountered the Void, and we know that the Void can take over proto-frames for certain. So then you have to ask the question, in the Void, or even maybe in the Origin system, could the man on the wall take over Dante Warframe at any point? Should it decide that it wanted to? Well, I'm just saying this is where the story seems to be headed. There is a heavy allusion towards the concept of the doppelganger. And one of the main, ideas behind that, especially in most instances of its utilization in media, it's almost always centered around the idea of not knowing which is which. And I think the Hex quest, if Whispers in the Walls didn't hammer home the concept of the whodunit where you didn't know at any point, was this Entrati, was this the Indifference? Well, I think the Hex Quest actually just, it made it even that much more muddy, because I feel like you could ask most people in this chat if they knew definitively at the end if that was Entrati or his other. And I would challenge anybody to say that they definitively could say one way or another. Well, so this is the idea, this is the danger with the concept of the prime timeline, where you can overwrite it. There, in theory, there should be, if you can overwrite one action, you potentially should be able to overwrite many actions. And what if there is validity, especially based on what we saw at the, with what the Indifference, the harsh words it had for the Orokin. It was largely believed that the Orokin created the Technocyte, right up until just recently. And
That's the last of them. Objective
what
is
you have to
secured.
wonder
Let's go home.
is, are the Orokin being replaced? Warframe. Your turn to die. They do explore the idea of real humans first artificially at the colonies. That's interesting. I'll have to check. I'll have to see what that's all about. See, I mean, you can do the clone thing. You just have to do it right.
Operator,
I think it
communications
easily
awaits
could
your
be done
attention.
right, right?
Please
But
check
that's
your
just
inbox
me.
at your earliest convenience.
And I think everybody knows, given my Homer status with the game for like the past at least two plus years, and I've said it 1,000 times, because they're putting the story out that I want. They're doing it. I'm not telling them to, but I'm not complaining. And so, for me, as I said, it was really, it's, I almost feel bad because I've contemplated recently putting out a video of just stuff I hate about Warframe, just so people think that there's some, they get the idea that I'm not this type of person that just loves, a thing because I want to, or something like that. Like, you typically have to do a lot to get me to enjoy a thing and enjoy it a lot and put a lot of time into it and everything else.
It's going down.
And like, to me, I look at, check this out. When new Invincible comes out, I want to see that like right away. Okay. And I can wait because, I know that they're putting the work in, they're doing what they got to do. I get it. And I'll be patient. But sorry, just getting some mastery rank action going here, like always. You know the deal. But I look at Warframe's story content pretty much in the same breath. Wait, what am I doing here? I want that. Just give me 1 second. I'll be with the group to continue our little. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I can't even do it. I see. Crap. I'm a moron. I don't have to have another one, do I? Nope, of course not. Oh, well, at least it's all taken care of for later. So we'll just do some of this. And we're good.
If I may say, operator, your chosen warframe suits
Well, we only have the one, so I guess that's what we're using. Do. I'll put this there. Thank you. And okay. Let's see this chroma. Oh, damn. I like that. Mm-hmm. That's quite nice. Well, what's to keep Wally from piloting? Why does this thing keep doing? What's to keep Wally from piloting a Warframe or Arthur or any of the proto frames for that matter? Oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't think this character's gonna be able to hang with this one. Might have to wait for. Will you guys carry me through this? We'll give it a go. Or shotgun, that's the only thing he really wanted to use. Again, I don't know if the idea was to kill the Tenno. If anything, I would say it's just the opposite. I'm going to do just that. I'm going to hide in the corner. Yeah. I think that Albert is scared to death of the indifference. I mean, that's why it's the only thing that matters to him. Oh, I guess I can. I hope I didn't mean to push the mission through. I thought that was. Why did Wally give us power if he could theoretically do it himself? Well, I mean, to me, I think I encapsulated that perfectly in the deal video. It gave him an agent. It gave him an easy agent that was accepted in, which is really weird if you think about it. Like, why did Margulis take such an interest in something that did such damage to them, right? To her and to others right up front?
You are here to distract
Like, I understand the concept of having empathy for children without question. But at the same time, if they are... There has to be a level of... Oh, God, I'm just going to stay with you guys. There has to be a level of... Maybe these kids aren't kids in the back of your mind at some point, right? Like, look what they're doing. Or if nothing else, that, like... These kids are dangerous. But yet, for some reason, she gave no fucks about that. She just wanted her kids. So much so that she literally, like, she just gave up her lover completely. Like, screw that guy. That's as good as I got. That's what I got for you. Oh, God. My overguard's like, what, I got 1,500? Nice. That should do. That should do. I absolutely agree with you. You know who else? You know who else would treat us like a science fair project? And who does?
Life support on the way.
Who does it? I mean, legitimately. There's only one other character in the game that treats us that way. Yeah. Or maybe Margos's feelings have something to do with the void in general.
I've delivered a life support
specifically.
capsule to the area. Activating it will buy you more time.
It all. The question really is how far into the plan do you want to accept the void needed to? Because you can just accept things at face value and not question them, just like that. Like, why would Margulis, like, I can understand being empathetic, but to the point where, like, you really didn't address the necessary safety problems, not to mention the fact that, you know, some people got seriously hurt in the process. And at face value, you know, it's a piece of the story that, yeah, okay, you know, I get it, but at the same time, there isn't necessarily any kind of quantifying factors. But when you add in intentions of another being influencing certain things,
Get ready for a capsule.
the story seems to fit a lot better. And, you know, that was kind of one of the things that I said in the video, that when you listen to how Eleanor describes reality, at least how she sees it, it's kind of it's not a pretty picture. It's actually pretty scary.
Life support capsule is now available.
And if that's accurate, like what she is postulating is the truth, if what she's seeing is really what it is, then the thought also has to come to my mind that, well, within the origin system, we are continuously pumping void energy throughout the entirety of the galaxy. So, if that is there, as described, and this thing can do what it does typically to the void, or with void, and its, you know, ability to kind of utilize it as anything, a method of travel, form of power, form of manipulation, memory manipulation, you know, all kinds of different things. What portion of the void and its utilization can we then say is without the possibility of influence? And under what pretense? Like, what is the basis for saying, no, that one's off limits? You can't do anything with that. I think they are the Kuva, the Kuva ones, right?
Additional life support has arrived.
Stop. Okay. Cut you. Maybe I shouldn't cut him. I'll take that, though. Well, I mean, there is the concept that you have the idea that, now, again, this is highly speculatory, but you can make the argument that the Drifter having the power of the Man on the Wall without, I don't know, without seemingly having made a deal, but at the same time, like, well, then what was the handshake? You know, at the end, or how, why then did, for what reason would the Drifter have had to be shaking hands with that entity in order to lock up its connection with the operator? Because at that moment it wouldn't know, or he wouldn't know, that the operator was who the operator is, right? I mean, unless the Void just picked him up and brought him to the scene. I mean, picked him up by the hand, if you will. No, no, I wouldn't say that. No, no, definitely not. I mean, the Drifter is, without question, a portion of Wally's power. And I don't look at Wally. I see. Okay, the thing is with the Indifference, I look at the Indifference way more like an aware demiurge than I do like the concept of God and the devil. But unfortunately, this aware demiurge has taken on the mentality of a human who, by all rights, acts much like a devil.
Life support
So
activated.
it's a weird kind of thing that, on its own, it appears as though it was not corrupted in any way, but then the introduction of, for lack of a better term, a crappy human, has forced it into a different type of realization and like behavior pattern that it wasn't necessarily supposed to be. Dare I say, it could be the whole concept behind it wanting to end as it began. It may have the same kind of interests involved as Entrati does in getting rid of certain aspects of itself due to how they are polluting it, for lack of a better word. Does that make sense? Now, I agree that Wally may not be the devil. The only thing that I have to say is that he keeps being depicted as the devil. A lot of the Man on the Wall has so many tropes of the Faustian bargain, a devil, an evil deity, the trickster. Unfortunately, if he is good, he certainly doesn't act good, okay? Like, his intentions are not pure in any way, shape, or form. In fact, like I said, they seem to be every way a mirror of what Entrati was already kind of how he was behaving to begin with, just with different motivations. Oh my, it must be dead so bad. Like, I can't. Torment will just rip me apart. And my unranked Strun is just, it's not going to do it. I don't know Paradise Lost's concept of Lucifer. So unfortunately, I can't make that correlation with any type of confidence, because like I said, I don't have a good concept of what that is. But let me try to trying to think of another character in media that would. So, without the sentience, or without the initial discovery, I'm gonna get shit for this one. Just in behavior, I hate to say it, but
excellent work, Tenno.
the Man on the Wall acts a lot like the Elder God from
Another life support capsule is now available.
the Legacy of Kain. And I wouldn't consider the Elder God from Legacy of Kain the devil, right? But I would say that they have the same kind of principle behind them in giving power for something that they themselves want in return, which again, like, that's essentially what it's been telling us throughout. And in fact, it kind of goes out and specifically says that during the Hex Quest, whenever it talks about the Orkin and how it gave us power freely and blah, blah, blah. So I would say H.P. Lovecraft, but I don't, I can't think of a story that has the other character in it, the Tenno's character in H.P. Lovecraft. See, whereas in the Elder God story, you have Raziel. Raziel is, resurrected as a different type of thing, much like how the Tenno is saved and turned into much more than a human being.
Ordis finds it odd that humans only get a
But at the
few
same
years
time,
to live, yet spend most of that time
Doing everything wrong.
learning how to live.
oh, did I get an arcane? Oh, neat. Cool. Thank you, guys. Mastery up. Yep, we're getting up there. Let me see. That is an interesting line. That is an interesting line within the quest itself, and yeah, it could be looked at, Matthew, as you're saying, without question. I can tell you that I looked at it more on the lines of, now bear in mind, you have to think about this through the context of the Drifter already having gone through the Deviri paradox. But during that quest, in different instances, in different situations, he's given a taste of the power, right? So as he exits Duviri for the first time, when he's when the Drifter, or I mean when Teshin says, "Hey, do you want to check out the other side and help the people out that helped you?" He's had a bit of the Tenno's power already in going into the Undercroft and using the Warframes and different situations like that. So to me, again, this is just, I did buy the 1 credit Shamrock palette. That's actually what we're using right now, by the way. But to me, I looked at that line as him saying, I know what's about to happen. It's just, it's not there yet because of what I already experienced. And I wonder if the rebuilding of the Lotus was kind of in conjunction to him knowing that he would get his stuff, because in the grand scheme, whenever through the whole Deviri paradox, essentially it's the Lotus who he believes is leading him through everywhere, right? Well, there you go. I don't think I have any Nova anything. I don't know if I have one of my other character or not. Now the real question: what do I want to use my bounty of argon crystals on? Arch Plumbus, yeah, that's again, I really do think we're going to get to Tau. I'm just not 100% certain that it's as around the bend as everybody, I think, wants it to be, given the dialogue that we got in the quest. Hey, I'll take it whenever. I'm ready. I just think there's like that. Again, who knows? We'll find out. We'll find out in a couple months. I'll be there. I'll be there to find out. Which I have to figure out how I'm going to be able to record stuff. Shit. All right, well, I got a couple months. Are we sure Tau is real? Just reminds me of pioneers trying to sell. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that is a good idea. God, can you imagine if it isn't? everything we know about like the Zariman 10-0 and the whole Zariman quest, or I mean the whole quest into the void and everything else, pretty much would fall in line with what I said, that it was all meant to is a thing to stage for the indifference. That I actually, you know what, I had to defend this in a comment today. That exact thing. That there was intelligent design behind what happened to the Tenno. That it was absolutely necessary that everything that occurred did occur. And to me, the main reason, there's two little things. First, when we are seeing the classroom scene in the new war, it's such a small little thing, but yet it's still relevant. The minute that we go from the drifter in his spot to the Tenno, and you see like kind of the outside of the window of the Zariman kind of panning backward, you hear our operator, right, in a panic. Meaning, and looking around, unsure of what's going on. Meaning that we didn't just see a memory, we actually experienced that memory as the drifter in the operator's body. Because the operator was, if it was just a regular, our operator in that thing, there would be he wouldn't be freaked out because he would just be sitting in the middle of class. But the whole thing is it's so fast. If you go back and watch it, not to mention, it just seems strange to me that within that section, and I'm just looking at, again, I'm trying to look at it from the easiest way to do quests and whatnot. I don't understand why the children needed to switch classes right before that moment to such a specific lesson. Now I get it through the concept of the story. Like, this is how eternalism was essentially described. You know, like this was how it was first given to us. And absolutely, we need to look at it from that lens of, there has to be a gameplay mechanic in order to explain this. But DE did not have to add that part. They didn't have to. They could have easily said that they were always having temporal axioms. That was just the class, and it would have made perfect sense, and there wouldn't be anything to think about or nothing weird to kind of postulate after the fact. It would essentially, all it does is to add some level of misdirection to that particular quest or that aspect of the quest. So what I'm saying is not necessarily that they're the same person, but that they can occupy the same body, if you will, at particular times, depending on what the situation requires. And again, if you think about it in the terms of the new war, there's a couple different scenes that just don't make any sense. Why would the Lotus chasing after the Drifter induce a memory back to the man in the wall? And does it not seem odd that that memory which was specifically needed in order to kind of bridge the power back, or else the Lotus would have essentially killed the Drifter. It's just odd timing, or perfect timing. And in many ways, I think it was set up so that it looked like it was flashbacks, right? But unfortunately, the flashbacks were pushing the story forward. That aspect gave the Drifter the power he needed in the now. So that means we went there in the now, because that event allowed for the power to happen. Yeah. At that particular moment, yes. When you're looking at it from that thing, you're actually looking at it from the Drifter's perspective. It's crazy. I did that quest how many times and never picked up on that. But you go back and look at it right now. Let's see. Maybe I can bring it up. Hold on. And what you're going to find, if you do, is that there's this just really weird pause. And you can hear him hyperventilating for half a second till he figures out what the heck's going on. Which, again, if you were sitting in a classroom, why would that happen? But hold on, let me see if I can find the video. Hey, epidemiologist, how are you? Well, I don't. The Zeramin's such a crazy thing because there's technically two of them, if you think about it. I mean, so there's that. There's also a doppelganger of the Zeramin. Because the Zeramin that's described in the is it Ember Prime is very different from the one that we get to actually go on. I'm going to try to pull this up for you all. Just give me 1 second because I have to go through like literally all of my stuff. Damn, I'm not going to try to find this stupid thing. Or Ray's, it could just be the fact that he was just transported from being in the ship to mentally or whatever. He was literally somewhere else. And then he just shows up in the mind of the operator looking around. He even, like, you see him, he turns his hand and he actually, like, he looks at it like, is this my hand? Yeah, I miss Rusalka too. We're going to get her. I think we're going to go get her back. The problem is do we want to? So, I'm still looking here. I just don't want to bombard you guys with something here as I'm trying to look through all these other ones. It's not that. Let's see, I think it's right after. Yes. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah. I do apologize for the little break here. Let me just see if I got the audio correct here. One second, everybody. I apologize. Okay, I think you can hear that. It might have been a little bit loud. I apologize if that came off a little loud. Try to put that down. Okay.
Oh, but, you're alive! I
Can everybody
hardly
hear this?
believe it. He actually agreed to help?
Yeah. Bastard even gave me homework.
You cannot kill the devil, Tenno. But you can.
Listen close, right here. Look at the tenant.
Quiet down, please. Stand for pledges.
By the glory and wisdom of the seven, I give my life.
See how you see what I'm saying? He's looking around. Do you hear him go at the very beginning? Look at his watch.
carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark. In this, we are one.
There it is.
Save all that chitter chatter for
So if you,
Tom.
and like I said, if
Our jump scare.
I can hardly believe it.
like I said, if you
agreed to help?
maybe the audio's a little off
Yeah.
because you can see there's a little glitch in this
Bastard even
particular
gave me
version of it
homework.
because I have so many different recordings.
You
First one at
cannot
a time.
kill the devil, Tenno. But you can send it back
Yeah,
to
at the
hell.
very beginning. I'll go.
Quiet down, please. Stand for pledges.
By the glory and wisdom of the seven, I give my life.
So you guys see, this is what I'm talking about. You thought certain things, but as you keep, if you
Sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark. In this, we are one.
the story is, there's something going on here that is not surface level. I'm gonna hit you guys with
Save
another one.
all that chitter chatter for
I
Tom.
wonder. You tell
Our
me
jump
if
schedule
anybody
has
else picked up
changed
on it.
again. So we're moving exams up with it. Everyone has studied
During
their temporal
hex-
axioms unit, I assume.
TA? But we were meant to have physics.
By my precepts, I've
I'm
never
not
had
sure if
such
the
an
official wiki has
enthusiastic
that
group of
aspect.
students. Now, eyes on the main
I put that down a little bit. How's that? Better? Sorry, I know the game. I put the game up real loud because I want to make sure you heard that particular thing, but we can keep it down now. We weren't sleeping. We were somewhere else. The drifter's mind was completely somewhere else, and then just magically shows up on the Zerman again. And that's why he's so freaked out. Because he just basically showed up on the Zerman after He just got the stuff from Hunhao. So here's the other thing I was going to bring up. You know how in multiple situations we have seen, I'm trying to think where it was at. There is, right before the Drifter is considering one way or another whether or not to shoot Rusalka. Now, this is something I didn't put in my video because I only picked up on it as literally I was figuring this out. I was putting the final touches on the video. Something pulls his hand back, and it's the same thing. It has the same sound as the hand that moves Arthur's hand in the beginning of the Hex Quest. Now, I don't know what or who the influence is yet, because we have multiple instances of what it could be or who is the one pulling the strings there. Is it the Lotus? Is it the Man on the Wall? Blah, blah, blah. But if you listen, and you can actually go to my video, the one I just released today, in the very beginning, in the intro, right? He's mocking us for sleeping in class. Well, he was the one paying attention. But the whole point was that if you look at that thing, you will hear it. It's so subtle. It's so subtle. Just as he's pulling his gun back, it's the exact same sound in kind of sort of like effect, but it's very quick, that you also see with Arthur's hand. And it's the same hand. I mean, I suppose I could pull it up. Do you want to see?
Please direct your attention to the windows.
It's a really good question about the Lotus, isn't it? She's an odd character. And she's getting odder by the day when it comes to certain things. I've actually said this a couple times, but anyone else notice like her really weird robotic movements in Lotus Eaters? Like when she's talking to the Tenno, she almost looks like she's like being controlled. Like, it's so weird how her head movements are and her like hands. Not to mention like as the Tenno and the Drifter both walk up to her, given everything that they've been through together, right? Wouldn't you think she would have like greeted them a little bit more cheerfully or something? When they walk up, what does she say? Oh, it's you. Right? What? Hey, Pterodactyl. Oh, it's you. What? If I oh my God. If my girl said that to me, it's like when I got home, like if she was like, hey, you know, how you doing? How you doing? And I said, oh, it's you. I would be in the doghouse. And so would every other person that answered that way. And then yeah. And then, but then she goes on to say, my child. You know, like, oh, it is my child. You know, I still remember definitively when I heard that for the first time, I was like, what? no, wait a second. Something, and I've been saying this for a while because I even think, and again, it may be a situation because that's what Hunhao did say. When somebody dies, death leaves a stain on them. This could be the quote unquote stain that's being, essentially, you know, that's what happened. But to me, it's very, her demeanor and behavior is so night and day pre-apostasy and post-New War, which is essentially, we are being led to believe that the person that we lost pre-apostasy or at apostasy is the same person that we got back post-New War. I'm going to pull up this other thing here real quick. Okay. Yeah, then there's that. She's just, it's just so weird, man. Yeah, but does she really seem enthusiastic about the whole champion? I don't know. To me, it just seems like. Now, again, I have a conspiracy theory brain, so keep that in mind. But it's a lot of the stuff almost seems to me like there's a scene the tag for, I think, says that I think is so relevant that it talks about the indifference trying to incorporate itself into our world, right? But not being able to quite do it. And that's, that's kind of what I was thinking, too, is, and this is also going back to the thing that we talked about a second ago with what Eleanor said, what if the Lotus is a void clone, like we've seen already, but yet she doesn't know that she's a void clone? To me, it would speak volumes as to why she doesn't seem to have that same emotional attachment in post-New War with the Tenno specifically, that she did before it. Does that make sense? Well, that's the other thing, too, is we keep... now, according to Lloyd, it was her song that was able to drown out what was happening in the sanctum, and for her to hear, quote unquote, hear the call. But then it's like she can't. Again, this is where. Oh man, dude, if Rusalka's the Kuva Elder Queen, what happened? Oh, anyway, so let's see this real quick. So, you ready? Now, when we get to this one part, Ben, we very well could have, or we brought something back that we thought was the Lotus. We never really see how she got back into the Origin system. We see how the Drifter gets back. But the Lotus, what happened there, we really don't get it. Anyway, peep this.
it.
Hopefully that isn't too loud. Hopefully that isn't too loud. One part I'm going to make a little bit louder, though. Yeah, I mean, I think that we still have the Lotus's hand, but you never get to see the hand of the Drifter again, unfortunately. So can you all hear this?
Who are you?
Kill her. Now.
Okay, keep an ear out for and watch. Did you see that? Did you hear that and did you see it? Let me do it again. Did you see something was almost like pulling on the hand and you could hear it? There's like a little sound. It's like a...
Who are you?
Kill her. Now.
Okay, do it one more time.
Who are you?
Kill her. Now.
Did you hear that? It's very subtle. Like I said, there's this. It's just the very end. You can almost see like a little bit of a, just a little bit of a void, glow on it at the very end. But you gotta. But you have to say you heard the sound.
If you cannot
Here, let me do it one more time.
even this much, how will you do what comes
Put it up
next?
like way loud.
What's he talking about?
This is gonna be loud. Wait, did someone say? No.
You do.
1999 is.
I'm not your puppet.
Oh, is that the transference sound? I'll have to look at that. 1999 isn't replayable, right?
What's he
Music is so hard right there. I love it. Okay. Okay. I do apologize if the sound was a little bit weird, but I wanted to get that point across. And like I said, interestingly enough, it's the exact same hand that that Arthur does that thing too with. And that's a really good question to ask as far as, and you go back to it again. If the Indifference can use proto-frames, the concept behind them not being able to use, do we want to play? The concept of them not being able to use warframes is insane. I don't know. again, the thing is what what kind of Eleanor talks about, and the Drifter confirms in the KM about the the void within the universe that's being pumped. It would allow for transference to work in the way, especially the way it used to, where technically your Tenno, quote unquote, would be on the ship,
You must provide cover for
and your
alone
Warframe
Tenno
woing be
operator.
down
Set off the alarms and
doing
keep
the
the
missions and
infested
back and
busy.
forth.
A steady stream of
Oh man,
toxic
imagine
spores
that
is being
on me.
released
That
into
would
the
be
area.
crazy.
Hold on.
That we're actually the
Emergency
one
life support is
corrupting
inbound.
the good part of us.
Detecting a synthesis target. Use the synthesis scanner to track the creature.
Damn. Oh, yeah, take some Cronus, why don't you? This is probably the largest combo I've ever done on a Cronus. Ah, yes. Another common correlation, let's say, with evil,
Life support
or at least, if
incoming.
nothing else, with the concept of demiurge-like beings, ones that aren't necessarily invested in the goodwill or the continued existence of humanity, or anything for that matter. Burnt Laughter! Hey, welcome to the group. Just so you know, we'll be doing a members-only stream this week, because I actually, unfortunately, missed the one from yesterday because of the video. So I owe that, so definitely keep your eye out for that. Play some Warframe there. See you, Pterodactyl. Have a good one. Yeah, we, like I said, it's... We're definitely getting into some good aspects of the story, but I also feel like we're going to begin to... We haven't really been given any kind of limiting factor by the man in the law. Largely, it's let us do whatever the heck we want, because for the most part, I feel like we've been just pretty much doing exactly what it needs. Through its influence, the influence of its other heralds and things of that nature, maybe even through the influence of things that we aren't even... I don't know. I'm not really sure about that, actually. Is that... It's like an alternate void? That might have been... You might be kind of getting on the same lines of what I was sort of alluding to in the video, that there may in fact be a place that we have yet to go to within the void that could have all kinds of interesting little lore bits and explanations on a lot of stuff, and maybe some catastrophic consequences, things that we never really anticipated. You know, like, if you found out, we already know definitively that the Lotus has... Hey, Esther, how are you? The Lotus has made some level of contact with the Man of War, right? I mean, that's pretty much a definitive thing now. She herself has admitted it. At least one variation of herself. But if it were to come to pass that the Lotus in all forms was always a product of the Indifference, it would take everything that we knew about what we have accomplished up to this point, and it would throw it on its side, because what we were told is that we were doing this for the good of the area, for the good of the people, like the ones that couldn't defend themselves, things of that nature. But in the same breath, I mean, we always seem to do it with death, you know? And if we found out that our original questmaster
just made their first discovery.
was, by all rights,
When you are ready, go to extraction.
the very enemy that we are trying to fight in the future. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. It's not like an uncommon trope we've seen. I'm not saying that Warframe's going to head down that path. Hopefully they won't. Well, I don't know. Depending on how they do it, it could be... Could be a thing. Do you think the Lotus chose that form? Or do you think Ballas gave it to her? Because I believe the information that we received through the new war and leading up to it very much alludes to the idea that Nata, all right, we're gonna do it. Nata was meant originally, and we actually see the immediate aftermath of this. What we see in, again, going back to the Era quest, right? Or the Era cinematic. That moment is towards the tail end of the old war. The reason why that is because what we're witnessing, now it says that this is the old war, but what it's showing is the crumbling of the moon, which was, let's say, it was the capital of the Orcan.
You could say we forged,
and it was like ground zero for them. And we see it crumbling. We see the sentients attacking it, and we see essentially Era going through the rubble and, you know, killing off stragglers. He picks up Varzia. At that point, the reason why Era is so shocked is because the Nata that he came here with did not look like Margulis. Yet he knows it's her. Because we've somewhat seen a little bit of her Eidolon form, but at the same time, what we do see, and what Ballas himself says, is that she actually says it towards the end of the new war, that I could see myself dissolving in your fingers. He was transforming her into what he wanted. And at the end of the new war, this is the reason why there's the disconnect in certain instances between when Ballas, a perfect example is in Apostasy. Or Apostasy. Ballas walks up to Margulis, or to the Lotus, and she says, Ballas. And he's like, Margulis, you know, forgive me, you know. She's, you're not who I think, or who you think I am. He goes, of course you are. Imprisoned, just as she was. This is his creation of Margulis. He created the Lotus to be a surrogate for his love for Margulis. And in fact, at the end of the New War, he says these things. He tells her he loved her because he wanted the Lotus to become Margulis. But much in the same way as if you've seen Inception, right? A really good parallel here is how Leonardo DiCaprio's character in his dream state, when he went underneath, was able to create a version of his wife. But as he says to her at the end, I created you, but you're not anywhere close to her. And this is where Ballas has the difference. This is where he has the problem. He realizes at the end he can't ever have Margulis back. The thing that he made in order to do all this stuff, and again, it goes straight to the line of why he gave Hun Hao the information in order to basically destroy the Orkin from the inside. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm not even certain. Check this out. It's very interesting to me that she is a mimic that was created specifically for this. She says that within the dialogue of the Rope Below list. And I wonder if that wasn't potentially, hey, Eternally, how are you, buddy? I wasn't if that wasn't potentially, yeah, there it is. You dreamed of a Margulis you could control. There it is, right there, Ray. That's what it is. He tried to make a Margulis that he could control. Now, she doesn't quite understand because she doesn't know the real reason why he created this Margulis. But what I was going to say is I wonder if, because you would assume, given the stuff that Ballas gives to Hun Hao, right, as far as the information, what's going on, what happens with the Warframes, everything else like that, it makes you question if one of the aspects of the thing was that he asked him to make something that, if they could, I mean, again, I don't know how exactly this works, but somehow Hun Hao was able to create a specific, because that's what the Lotus says, Natal was created specifically to infiltrate the pitch eggs of the Orkin, the Tenno. That's what her whole goal was, to destroy the Orkin and destroy the Tenno. But I think that's where Ballas made the switch. I think Ballas knew that he needed the Tenno in order to do what he had to do. And it's true. He used them throughout everything leading up. Everything. From the sacrifice, leading up through the New War, he led the Tenno through. Heck, he even got people to take the Tenno's side, or to take his side over the Lotus. So what we see with Era there, Era didn't believe that Nata was supposed to have anything to do with the Tenno other than kill them. So when he sees this thing who looks like a human being, I mean, think about it, there are no other sentients that look like a human being, just one. Do you see what I'm getting at here? And then what we see at the end is the sentience, Era being basically like either tucked away or something there. killed to the point where, well, he says at least that like he didn't. It wasn't enough to kill him, you know. But it's interesting that you only see those 5 Tenno, and then what looks like our Tenno, but clearly being influenced by the man on the wall, parading around the undercarriage of the moon, destroying and just making sure everything's taken care of, with all the children still locked away in their cryopods. And it makes me wonder if how many of the kids were actually there for this event that killed the Orokin 7, supposedly. Like they said, they paraded around the Tenno, right? But we also know that the Tenno didn't leave their cryopods because of the voices. At least that's what is inferred. So are we saying that the Orokin 7 allowed for all of these kids who they believe to be these dangerous things that were hearing voices that couldn't control their power? We're saying that they all just allowed the entire group of them in with this emperor, or with these emperors, these executors? It just doesn't seem like a move that they, who are so adamant about their existence and being so self-important, that they would subject themselves to such a, let's say, obvious opportunity for attack. But to me, if there was a small group of them, that makes more sense. And perhaps, maybe that's the group that we are shown. Haster, I would say that, but there's one thing that makes me believe differently, and that's the specific number of entities that are there. 7. 7 is a very, very significant number amongst the Orokin. In fact, it permeates all aspects of their society. So it's interesting that that would be the exact number of Tenno that ceremoniously destroyed them. Almost poetic, in a way, don't you think? Their own creations. How about the 7 tenets of the Orokin? The 7 principles. We got the 7 tests on the moon. All right, Saxon. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. I obviously appreciate you all very much. This Sunday, I hope you enjoyed today's video, too. That was an exciting one for me to make. 7 legumes. How about that? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a very poetic number, and it's just very coincidental that that would be the exact number that was going around. 7. Oh, there's tons of stuff to uncover in the new war yet. We don't even know half of the things that even happened in the new war. We don't even know half the things that happened in the old war. Okay, things we don't know about yet, can't say definitively, right? Ready? Here we go. New war. Who brought the Lotus back into the Origin system? Who engaged the drifter into the experiences of the operator? Who brought them together? Because there's a scene where the drifter and the operator meet. Who did that? A bird. There you go. What happened to Era? Who's Pazul? There is dialogue in one of the Zeraman tablets you can find in Duviri, speaking specifically about a group of people that are preparing preparing solar rails, I believe, to get to Tau yet. Who's doing that? Who's influencing this? Brian, I believe Viso died in the, because essentially it looked like when he shot that sentient ship, right? The blast wave came back and it looked like it destroyed all kinds of stuff right as our railjack was like pulling through. So I think he's dead. Wait, am I missing something? Where do we see the Lotus on the Zeraman? Oh, you're talking about Margulis. In that little trailer. That's right. There's this scene where it looks like Margulis is tending to a child on the Zeraman. It looks like that, though. It's a ship. It's a ship in space. I can't say for certain that that's the exact same ship per se, right? It could be a different one. But that's a really good point. I totally forgot about that. She was an Archimedean, yeah. So it would be so there was a trailer for the new war where I'll tell you exactly how you can find it. It shows a female operator. This is a very, very well done trailer too, where it looks like the Lotus is in her Natah form, and she has like this army of sentience behind her, and there's one Tenno that's kind of like looking at her and almost like crying in the process because it's like the confrontation. But as you go through the trailer, you see it's like through the eyes of this operator, like the different stages of things that her and the Lotus have went through together, and then like that's where you see that at. Yeah. I don't know. It's what I'm saying. It looks like a spaceship. I can't definitively say. It could be the Zeraman. It shouldn't be the Zeraman, because Margulis should not have been on that ship. Because if Margulis was on that ship, she would have been influenced, or she would have been presumably turned feral like the other ones, and then would have been a target of the Tenno. As we understand it, she was blinded by them when they got back from the first time the Tenno kids get back. Let me see if I got it. Yeah, hold on. Mm-hmm. apologize. Give me 1 second. I don't think this is it now. I apologize, everybody. Just give me 1 second. Okay, you ready? Can you hear that? It's mute. Oh, really? I don't want to blow anybody's ears out. This is an excellent trailer. So, I mean, it's a spaceship somewhere. It's over Earth, but I can't. I mean, who knows? Is that right before they left? You know, Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, you're probably right. It's on the moon. Okay, okay. No, that's you're probably onto something there. It's probably on the moon. That makes sense. It did. That's what I first thought. I was like, why would she just be on a ship? But actually, you know, now that yeah, that's close. I don't know. I've never been on the moon, so I can't really say what it looks like from the moon to the Earth. It could be a ship. It could. It could be. It could be a ship. It could be. It could be the moon. Could be a ship. What about her hands? What's with the hands? Again, it's really tough to say. Yeah, I don't remember them in the the top of my head at the moment. Uh, as far as because I've seen so many pictures from so many different things, I can't necessarily remember. Is this does that look? Is that is that legit? Like, is that the distance? I don't know. It seems like a ship, but it could be the moon. Yeah, I mean that's what I thought. It really does look a lot like the orbiter thing too, like that window that we have in there. But I don't know. I don't know. Well, that's Jupiter. Okay, now you really got me. I don't know what it is. Is that Jupiter? Oh, I guess there are rings. Shit, I didn't notice that. Yeah. Okay, so that changes things then. That's not the moon. That's not Earth. Earth doesn't have rings. I didn't even notice that. Can you see it? Yeah, that's definitely not. That's. So that could be outside of Saturn. Okay, now I'm really confused. I don't know. I thought it was going to be easy, and we could have just debunked it right then. I thought it was okay, moon, or if that's Earth, fine. But no, that's gotta be Saturn. Well, no, it doesn't have to be Saturn, but given that one scene that we just looked at from the Zeraman shows Saturn. Oh man, you just have to. I don't know. I don't know. That's right. Uranus could be, but which one is? I thought Uranus's rings were like straight up and down, or is it Jupiter? It's tough. It's so tough to say. Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't look like Saturn, but then again, like it does have a very bluish appearance, but I don't know if that's just like a lighting effect or what the hell that is. I'm gonna keep this girl who looks like me but younger. Yeah, Matthew, that's what I love about those two quests is like on the surface you don't think that they would have any type of correlation, but then once you go through them, they're like pieces of each other, just in the same way that Whispers in the Walls in 1999 are pieces. I mean, we start the Kalimos sequence in the beginning of Whispers in the Walls, and then once we've made our connection to the Hex members, the sequence is complete. Which is scary as hell. Because I just figured that one out today. And it says horrible things about Whispers in the Walls and the Kalima sequence in general. So I don't know. It's like I got my work cut out for me. But do you see how, like, this is the reason why I want to go back and be able to play all the quests so badly. Because I want the ability to look at this stuff and go over it with the fine-tooth comb over and over and over again. I like that. That's the saddest part. Like, DE, you think you need to give me arcanes and shit to keep playing? No. I'll play the story. I'll play that campaign that you made. I'll play it like 15 times in a row. I'll do that. I'm that guy. That's who I am. Oh, man. I don't... Dude. Again, you have to look at it from the perspective of other things that we've seen where, like, Parvos Granum seems to have been influenced in certain ways outside of any type of, like, Orican situation, but it looks like it has a connection to the void. And then Ballas looks like he has a connection to the void. With that in mind, if we come to find out that, like, that Margulis wanted children and Ballas didn't, and that was like a major sticking point, that will change so much and could absolutely put Margulis in the same realm. Because again, what we have to remember is that for the Man on the Wall, time is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's all at once. It's like Dr. Manhattan. Like he can see everything as it granted for himself, but he can still see time, all time at once. So the idea that Margulis had some kind of significant interaction with the Tenno, given that the Tenno became such an integral part of... You know, while I'm talking, we're just going to watch this. I'll just put that on there again so it gives you guys something to look at. But it becomes such an integral part of everything. It really does start to make you, to force you ask the question of how deep has the indifference already, like, put itself? And are there any coincidences when it comes to people interacting and furthering the Tenno's journey along, if the deal with the Man on the Wall is kind of pushing that forward, was like was the opening thing to that journey? So, Rian, that would have happened if you go through to the Laverian. You have to have done all of the stuff for, was it Armistice? What was the node that we had to do to get all the stuff? Yeah, this would have been, you can still go in and hear the story. If you get, the story will come very specifically when you grab the Prex card of Dante within his Laverian. However, you have to be up of a certain rank to even see it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's Parvis is another thing. That's a whole other section of the story that we still have to get into. Is it Neptune? Well, yeah, I guess we're all here on Neptune already, so maybe. But then again, it's interesting at this point here. Well, no, this is Uranus. This would be Neptune, or could it be? No, actually, no, Rian. Think about it. As we understand it, there's only one person in all of Warframe that understands Void Tongue, and that's Parvos Granum. because Albrecht and Trotty, not only has Lloyd told us that Albrecht and Trotty doesn't know Void Tongue, but Albrecht and Trotty says through his own notes that he brought the Kavi. The Kavi was, he hoped that through them he would be able to discern some type of language because of the way that they were freakishly praising when they came back out from the wall. Frank, I think they are. It looks a whole lot like Skana, doesn't it? That very well could be Neptune. And I mean, I like it because if that's the case, then it allows me to put that to bed and not think that she was somehow on the Zeraman 10-0. Because if she was on the Zeraman, that just changes too many things, and it just blows my mind. Oh, that's right, Captain Vor. He's another one. But the real question you have to ask is, how is it possible that Entrati doesn't understand Void Tongue, but Parvos Granum would? There you go, Oil Chin. That's it right there. Force speech would make a good shirt. And every time you'd walk into a room, you'd know who all your Warframe people were right away. They would read it, and they'd walk right up, and they'd probably start reading it to you in Vor's, in character, in Vor character. Well, so here's this is kind of what I was getting back to. If you consider the concept of first the ARG that points out what the eye truly is in Entrati's labs, right? And then you look at the beginning of the quest, which was predicated upon the Kalimos sequence beginning. And then you take into consideration the end of the Hex quest after you have made connections with the Hex. And the eye of Entrati, which is actually controlled by the man on the wall, says the sequence was completed. And it makes me believe that there's a very good possibility that yet again, the Kalimos sequence did exactly what it was supposed to do. We were told it was supposed to do one thing, but it did something else. And given the concept of especially some of the things in, let's say, inside the sanctum, there's very few people in there who actually would want to help Entrati. I mean, Tagfer comes straight out and says he has no interest in helping Entrati whatsoever. And I imagine it wouldn't be hard for the other two to kind of come along on board with that under the right circumstances. Then you have Lloyd, who, through the Hex quest, clearly shows that in some way, shape, or form, he's been interacted with. And gets back to my point that I was trying to make earlier, in that, how do you know who's who? So, well, it's funny. The Kalimos sequence, from your understanding, would ban a indifference from 1999. However, the sequence gets completed. But do we do anything that we were supposed to do in the Hex quest? What was the first thing that we were supposed to do? What was the thing that Lotus wanted us specifically to do when she told us about going back to 1999. It was, without question, you have to find Entrati first. Right? Did we find Entrati first? No. Did we find Entrati before the man in the wall found Entrati in the Hex Quest? Yes, we were. We were a bit late on that one, weren't we? So what else were we supposed to do? So we're essentially we were supposed to try to get in contact with Entrati, right? I mean, that was the whole thing, because that's what he said. He told us, when the time is right, find me, right? So we found him, but nothing happened. So here's another thing. I love this one. We were specifically told that Entrati went to 1999 because this was the one place that he was away from him. And he trapped himself in 1999 specifically. In fact, he had Lloyd specifically trap him back in 1999, right? So the Indifference couldn't get him. Yet we go into Whispers in the Walls, and all you need to do is go back to the back of the room as soon as you see it, and he's already there. But more importantly, you go and find Entrati, and he's already taken over too. So if you went back to 1999 to get away from the Indifference, and you're saying that it can't get back there, then what is it doing here? Well, I mean, it seemed like it was simple for it to get back. Like, what did the Indifference have to do to get to 1999? And I mean, I guess what it did was, well, it hopped a piggyback ride off of us whenever we went to go get the Kalimo sequence started. Remember? In Whispers in the Walls? We have done everything that the Indifference wants. The whole way through. Like, every step of the way. So, I mean, we're... Yeah, and then the entity shows up in your trapped away hell. So, in retrospect, everything that we were supposed to do, we failed at. And in fact, if you're going off of what Entrati asks, right? Because that was the original, that's the reason why we're here in the first, that's why we showed up in 1999, because Entrati told us we needed to go there, right? So then we get to 1999, and he tells us what we need to do. We need to destroy this area with the bomb, because it will give him something that's rare. And then a spark that's rare for this time. So what do? We do the other thing. We don't do what Entrati says. We do it what the Indifference asks us to do instead. And save them. Which I think there's even an aspect in there where it's kind of mocking us. We're up on the Zeraman. This would be in the second time we were making the connections with the Hex, right? We've already made our connections, and we're pulling them through. And it literally asks, it's like, why are you doing this? You know Entrati wants to destroy them all, right? All anyhow, right? I feel like at times it's just like leading us down the primrose path. And and we're just walking right along. And the worst part is we're like, oh no, we're up against you. We're sticking it to the man. And the man's just sitting there laughing the whole time. And that's the story of Warframe. Yeah, so Albrecht said all that stuff to seal the indifference in 1999. And did we make it count? Hell no. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's almost like it's mocking the Tenno. It's like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing? And again, it goes back to the same thing that I think that one piece of the hex is trying to kind of misdirect us with. When Albrecht specifically calls out the indifference and says, I see the poison to your plan. Love. It wants us to make the connections with the hex members. And Eleanor actually goes on to say that it wants this because it wants to see us break up. It wants that satisfying negative emotion of watching the hex members and the drifter break up and have this emotional turmoil between them. And that's compounded by the idea that when you do break up with the hex member, the man on the wall laughs at you. Well, Audme, Eleanor talks about her other two, so it's pretty much it's a common thing. Well, see, and that's if this turns out to be what it is too, that's I love this because I guarantee you, in this myself included, the first time I went through the Hex Quest, I'm like, oh, I get it. We have to make these connections to overcome the indifference and thus show like love. But then as I went through it a second time, I'm like, wait a second, that's not in line with anything else that Entrati says during the quest. Everything else that he speaks of during the Hex Quest is specifically gauged towards being indifferent. Not killing Rusalka, not allowing the bomb to go off and saving the Hex members. Everything that Entrati wants us to do is based upon the idea of not being emotional. And yet you're going to tell me at the very end, he's then saying, I need you to be emotional. No, that's why he has no injuries at the end. That's why in order to complete the sequence, we have to make connections with the proto-frames, because the proto-frames are a method by which it's going to feed. Yes, the indifference does laugh if you break up. No, I think Entrati got it right. He knows exactly what it is. And he knows that the indifference is using feelings to sway the Tenno. And he's trying, he was at least attempting to say, look, man, and that's what he even says with the whole thing about with Rusalka. When he's sitting there, he's like, do you not think that these choices don't affect me too? Do you not think that these things, they bug me too? But you, in this situation, you have to overcome your emotionality. You have to overcome your feelings for certain individuals if the world is at stake. There are some unused voice lines. Well, Wally's voice is the Drifter. I guarantee. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna see. That's it. Oh yeah. There's also a thing when you have your little intimate moment with Eleanor. She says something to the effect of our relationship is terrible, savage, and terrible, or something like that. Like I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. So the ARG basically set us up to the idea throughout the beginning portions of the ARG, right? Was that Albert Entrati was sending us these messages. Crazily enough, he wasn't sending them to the Drifter. In many cases, he was sending them to us, the people controlling the people in the game. I mean, it's spelled out that way. But that was the idea. The breadcrumbs were led through to believe this was Entrati leading us through. He was in 1999, leading us through. Giving us a little breadcrumb here, giving us a little breadcrumb there for us to follow. At the tail end of the thing, what you come to realize is the entity that was leading us through, that was giving us these breadcrumbs the whole time, the one that's represented by the eye of Entrati, was the indifference the entire time. And everything that we were doing was exactly what it wanted. And we probably should have known that right before, because it asked us, okay, it wanted the genetic codes of the proto-frames, okay? Now, if you understand the idea behind the proto-frames and how they were created, you would know unequivocally that Albert Entrati should not need that. He has been taking samples of all of them and creating the vessels. If anybody knows the genetic code of the Hex members, it would be him. Yet, this entity, claiming to be Entrati, wanted the codes. But here's the other thing. When we figured out the codes, right, it wouldn't accept them in our language. It would only accept them through the lens of the Loc Requiem. And once we put in the sequences based upon this Requiem, and it got in, that's when we realized we had basically given it everything it wanted. It laughed at us, showed up its face everywhere on a bunch of different screens. I think the indifference wants it all. It's like it's different than Fibonacci and Tagfer and them, because the indifference has no concept of fear, because it has nothing to fear. So what it experiences, for the most part, is joy, excitement. And I'm sure something that had no concept of that was kind of breathed into it through an interaction with a human. And bear in mind, when you consider this, also consider humans' affinity towards wanting attention and things of that nature, like it's just a natural thing. It's part of our makeup. It's how we function. Together with its understanding of Entradi's mind, pasted on top of a void god, it can do whatever it wants. So I think it's attempting to take over the place of the individual and I think this is the idea for all of them. They are attempting to replace their counterpart in this existence. And I don't know if that means assimilating into like one being, but there is this consistent concept that both Entradi and the Indifference keep bringing up, and that is we end as we begin. So when we figure out exactly what that concept means to the Indifference, then we'll know what its intentions are, because that's all we have. We have two pieces of information that the Indifference has offered us as far as its motivations. The first is that it wants to end as it begins. The second is that it hates the Organ. So I think the Indifference, the name Indifference, comes from, and I said this in my last video, now that I've kind of been over all these quests and with all these different things calling it the Indifference, what I think that means and why it has the name that it has is because this is the feeling of complete and total like nothingness that coming into contact with it makes you feel. Eleanor describes the feeling of seeing the Indifference for the first time. And the idea is that it's so overwhelming and it's such an incredible and terrifying thing to take into consideration that you want it to be this indifferent thing. That's the feeling that you're getting from it. That it I shouldn't say you want it, but that's the feeling that you're getting from it, that this thing it cares so little about your existence that's the feeling that people get from it whenever they encounter it. That's true. Rel could have been another potential vessel, but I've said this before. I think if Rel was a vessel, I think what saved him or what made him able to withstand against the Indifference was, amazingly enough, his autism. And the concept of emotions not being looked at in the same way as a typical person. And because of that, he was able to fend off what most others cannot do. Folks, I think I'm going to tell you this straight up, Eleanor. That nun version of Eleanor, that was her other. It typically shows up in forms that it wants what the Drifter says in the KIM messages, it shows you forms it knows that you are comfortable with. And when you listen to how Eleanor describes her quote unquote nun self, she looks at it as this different variation of herself that she couldn't necessarily be, but she's very comfortable with the idea of. And I believe that is why it showed up to her like that. Much in the same way that in Trotty showed up Little Bengal, we got the Hey Kiddo, that kind of thing. I mean, there you go. It's in this particular instance. It made Rel arguably the most formidable opponent the Indifference has ever faced. And who knows, maybe at some point down the road, Rel's somebody that we have to contact, that we have to find. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to see Eleanor in like her other, because twins, Basil, twins, but Edward, it is to go through and be able to see all the quests again that I can't play. Like I want Chimera again. I want to play the Hex quest over. Well, I guess I'm going to get that opportunity to do that. I want to play Mask of the Revenant. I'd like to go back and go through that again because it was such a short quest, but Revenant has become one of my favorite frames way after the story was in there. So at the time, I was just like, this is so minor, it really doesn't matter. But now, I'm, hey, Revenant, it's my man. I mean, who knows? We could, it'd be cool if we could see Rel. It's possible, given that Rel was like a human being, kind of like Teshin. Rel may be some old, I could even see it too. It'd be so cool. He could even be in Duviri. Show up and this old dude cloaked and whatnot, and show up and says, "Hey, hi, I'm Rel," or say something to the effect of "Hello, my name's Garmy, but you might have remembered me as Rel." Well, see, I want to go back to the Mask of the Revenant. I want to dig into that. I can't do that with my current character. Not to mention, there's other things too. There's aspects of replayable quests that you cannot see again. You can't see at the end of Rising Tide the man in the wall sitting on the reliquary drive. You can replay the quest, but you can't see that again. You can't see the man in the wall sitting right there at the foundry when you're building the what the hell is that thing called? The chimeric statue thing for Whispers in the Walls. Somebody said it earlier. Is Duviri like an afterlife? I don't know. As I'm seeing it right now, Duviri is very similar to other places we've seen, like 1999. I will do that. Thank you, Edward. Well, I mean, again, yeah, the Jahu Gargoyle. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you. Is it just weird to me, or just to me, or it's a lot of the things that the G-Man did really starting to happen within the Warframe universe? And I postulated this a long time ago that I'm not saying that the G-Man or that Half-Life is in Warframe, but their stories are. And I wonder if, like other things, that story wasn't used as a kind of inspiration and is the reason why we see Gordon Freeman in 1999. Wouldn't that be crazy? I mean, they definitely look different, so I'm gonna. I don't know about that. Duvernay's a Lost Island, or 1999 is a Lost Island Duvernay, but you know. Well, that's my whole point. Like, we know that the story of Half-Life is in Warframe now, just because of what we saw there. But I'm not saying that the G-Man or Morgan or Gordon Freeman is in. I almost said Morgan Freeman. Gordon Freeman is in Warframe. I'm just saying that a lot of the things that are happening are very similar to what's going on there. And when you think about the Man on the Wall specifically and how a lot of his characters based around the concept of learning, would it be that far of a stretch that he got some inspiration from a fiction from another universe? I mean, some Dark Sector's fiction from another universe in Warframe. Why not Half-Life? Morgan Freeman in Warframe would be sick, let's be real. I mean, the sad part is we have the likeness of Gordon Freeman. So if the Man on the Wall took the appearance, because it can do this, of the G-Man, it would technically still be within the realm of actual acceptable lore. Gordon Freeman. We do need some more beards for Drifter, I agree. Specifically the one that I'm rocking right now myself, I would like to put that in game. They don't have one that's quite that way. Yeah, no, you don't want to catch this one right in the center stream. You're gonna have to go to the beginning. You're gonna be lost. Again, there's not given in any other instance it wouldn't be possible, but because the Man on the Wall takes on the appearance of other things that it interacts with, and because there is a legitimate cutout of Gordon Freeman in Warframe, that would mean that there's most likely an image in the Warframe universe of the G-Man, because, you know, the story's in there, obviously. So the Man on the Wall could look at that, read that story, like what it's seeing, change into that, show up to you, and blow your fucking mind. Or Morgan Freeman. Could do that too, technically. I mean, wouldn't that be crazy? Like if the Man on the Wall would just show up as all these different things. He'd show up as like Rick Sanchez. Like, you know, he'd show up. Yeah, he'd show up as Gandalf or Dumbledore. Would show up in your orbiter. Oh my God, this would be like the craziest. I mean, it'd just be so much fun. But everybody, with that being said, I do believe we are coming to the end of today's stream. Got to get the situation for dinner going for the family here. Well, again, whatever. I mean, think of it this way: they could literally use all of the older like Disney stuff and whatnot that's all coming out of the patent. Like all those, any type of open to like public source stuff now that it's back in the day, like all the, you know, because like Lies of P's using it now with with aspects of the Wizard of Oz, and I mean, I hate to say it, but like, yeah, no offense, but like Wally could show up as like, like the wolf from the Little Red Riding Hood or anything. You know? So, Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie, if nothing else. No, it's getting out of hand now. Not with Wally, they didn't. But all right. Well, everybody, thank you again for being here with me today. I very much appreciate your time. Hope you enjoyed the video today too. And if you haven't had a chance yet to watch it, that'd be nice of you to do. Let me know what you think, good or bad. But at any rate, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day today, a wonderful rest of your weekend. I'll talk at you all in the next one, everybody. Take care.